Hey everyone, welcome to The Rising. Thank you so much for tuning in and streaming with us online. It is such an honor and I'm so excited to be able to be online, to still be in community with everyone. I know we can't all be in the same building and it's been that way for the last 3-6 months, whatever it's been, who knows how long it's been. But we're able to come together through the power of technology. So thank you so much for tuning in with us this morning. Speaking of community, summer is right around the corner and today it's super hot, super sweaty. When we started filming, my drink had ice in it. We don't anymore. But it's really hot, and that means that summer's right around the corner. And with summer, we have summer groups starting. In fact, some of them have already started, some of them have already met this past week. And I want to encourage you, if you've never joined a group during this time, or if you've never joined a group at all, make today the day you say yes to signing up for a group. On Sunday mornings, usually what happens is we all get in the same building and we get fueled for the week by a message, and we also have that physical connection with people. Right now we can't have that physical connection, but we can still have connection and really get to know people, build relationships, develop new relationships using the power of technology. So whether it's through a Google Hangout or a Zoom call or a FaceTime call, whatever it might be, and however we're doing groups, make today the day you say yes to signing up for groups, because there might be a relationship that's in that group that you're supposed to be a part of, but you haven't signed up yet. So make today the day you say, I'm gonna join a group, and I'm gonna push forward and I'm gonna build community right here, even from my home. You don't even have to get in your car and you can be a part of that community. Also wanna let you know, throughout this time, we have been on mission to see people raised to life in Christ. We've seen a few people baptized, but what we've also continued to do is we've continued to return our tithes and bring our offerings. A tithe is 10% of our income, and offering is anything that's above and beyond that 10%. And right now, we can't give in a bucket, we can't give cash, we can't give a physical check. What we can do is we can give online. You can visit wearetherising.com/give. If you've never done it before, you can set up an online account. You'll be able to give. You can set it to be automatic, so it comes out every week, 2 weeks, months, however you prefer. This is how Pastor and his family return their tithe. My family, we return our tithe via text message. So it's 2020, you're able to text the amount you would like to give. All you have to do is text the number 45777, the amount you'd like to give, plus the keyword The Rising, all one word, and you'll be able to give directly from your cell phone. So thank you so much to those of you who have continued giving, who have said, yes, I'm gonna obey God in everything I do, including returning just a portion of what He's blessed me with, and for living generously and living open-handedly. Right now we're in this series, we're continuing it, The Me I Wanna Be, where we're talking about our values as a church. We've talked about several values already. Today, the value is we are for and not against. We want to be a church where we are known for what we are for. We don't want to be known for what we're against. And I believe this is a value that is relevant all the time, but never more relevant than right now with what's going on. And so make sure to sit on the edge of your seat. You want to take notes, even though it's on video and you can go back later. Make sure to write it down because you don't want to miss it. I believe God has something He wants to say directly to you, directly to me, anybody tuning in at any time. And so with that, let's get right to it.
I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along and put me back together. Now every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, nothing better than you. Oh, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all. You still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You turn beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn rains into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you.
I think we can all agree that if 2020 were an item we bought from the store, we'd probably return it for a full refund, right? This year has been trying for all of us, difficult for all of us, testing us in ways many of us have never been tested. I mean, from a global pandemic paired with stay-at-home orders, fear of a disease, anxiety over job loss, to this moment, here and now, a nation waking up to systemic and racial injustice and oppression that's been overtly on display in our society and covertly humming beneath the surface for hundreds of years. See, in the 1800s, our nation woke up to the injustice of slavery dividing in a war, which led to emancipation, but not equality. In the 50s and 60s, this sleeping giant of a nation once again awoke to march and protest for the delinquent check of justice and liberty for all, for which this republic stands, to finally be cashed in the granting of civil rights and the eradication of Jim Crow laws. And even though the civil rights movement was successful in so many ways, the dream for equality and justice for all, the dream that men and women would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, still has not been realized systematically and societally. See, Jim Crow, racism, implicit bias, injustice still lives in our society, and it's here and now, in this moment, with the most recent unjust death of George Floyd, that not just the nation, but the world is waking up to see the problem of racism that still exists. Almost everyone from politicians to civic leaders to celebrities are speaking out and standing up for liberty and justice for all. And now it's our turn as a church to do the same. See, people have asked me about the name of the church that I lead, the Rising. What's it mean? Why that name? Why call a church the Rising? Here's why. Because I believe that the people of the church should rise up to show what the power of resurrection looks like in our own lives and in the world. See, we've met the one who is the resurrection in the life, and because of that, we rise up to show love, grace, peace, hope, and justice. And this Sunday, June 7th at 3 p.m. in downtown Norfolk at City Hall, we have an opportunity to join with people and pastors from over 30 different churches in our area, with city leaders, the mayor, the chief of police, city council members. We have the opportunity to join in on a peaceful, productive protest against systemic injustice in our society. City Collective is hosting this protest, and I want to invite you to join my wife and I and so many others in leading the way for change in this peaceful protest. You know, I wasn't able to march with Martin back then, but now is our time in this moment to make a peaceful statement of empathy, support, and change as we seek to rise up and be peacemakers, bringing liberty and justice for all. This is our time. This is our moment. So will you join us? You know, in 1984, the story broke of these two different tribes, the Utes and the Zooks, who lived on opposite sides of a long, curving wall. And there was this tremendous battle that broke out between the two tribes. And the battle, it started small, but it escalated into an arms race where each tribe began crafting and developing more sophisticated weaponry to fight one another. And eventually, both tribes developed bombs, and they were poised to attack, waiting to see which side would make the first move. And in the story, the reporter notes that there's a grandpa who was asked by his grandson, "Who's going to drop it? Will you or will he?" And the story's reporter quoted the grandpa as saying, "Be patient. We'll see. We will see." See, when there's quarreling and fighting and division amongst nations and tribes and even people, like one-on-one, it's always good to go back to the beginning and ask, why is this? I mean, what started this? And here's how the animosity between the Utes and the Zooks began. It's because the Utes wore blue clothes and the Zooks wore orange clothes. Also, the Utes ate their bread with the butter side up, and the Zooks ate their bread with the butter side down. So the weapons they developed to fight one another because of their differences were things like the triple sling jigger, the jigger rock snatch'em, and the kickapoo kid, which was loaded with powerful puadoo powder and ants' eggs and bees' legs and dried fried clam chowder, and it was carried by a trained gun-toting spaniel named Daniel. See, this whole incident that went down was known as the Butter Battle, where the Utes and the Zooks, because they wore orange or blue and ate their toast with the butter side up or down, allowed not just a wall to divide them, but their differences as well. And they decimated one another because of it. See, Dr. Seuss, and that's how you say it, Seuss, not Seuss, I know. Dr. Seuss narrowed in on the divisions so many of us are prone to because we live in a sin-scarred world, and he played out what being against looks like if it's taken to the extreme. He published the Butter Battle book the same year he turned 80 against the backdrop of the Cold War, and the book was so controversial, one Canadian library removed it from the shelves. Right? A kid's book shedding light on the destructiveness of division was controversial and removed. You know, over 5 years ago, before my wife and I launched The Rising, the church where I'm the pastor, I sat down to try and figure out what kind of church I was going to lead. I knew that before we invited people to be a part of this church, this movement, we needed to know what we were inviting them to, and that's where our guiding values came from. See, the question I had to answer was this: what kind of church was this going to be? What would shape our culture as a church, our ethos of our way of operating and being, not just as an organization, but as people who made up the church? And one of the first values I wrote down was the one I want to expand on with you now. It's, we are for, not against. And this is a value for a time like this. You know, I didn't write this value down over 5 years ago for this moment that we're living in right now. I wrote this value down because this value is timeless, transcending even moments like this, speaking into and applying to moments like this. See, we're filming this the week before June 7th, 2020, and we're premiering this on June 7th, 2020. But if you happen to be listening to this a year from now or a couple of years from now, because we post this on our podcast and it's on our site and it's available for anyone to listen to at any time, let me just remind you of what's taking place in this moment at this time in America. And you can probably look back in history and you'll remember this time because we're living in a history-making moment right now. See, there's this global pandemic that swept the world. I mean, here in America and in other places in the world, the economy has been shut down. Like, as of this recording, over 40 million people are unemployed. COVID-19, this disease that's halted the world, has killed over 372,000 people worldwide, over 106,000 people here in America, and there have been over 6 million reported cases worldwide, with almost 2 million cases here in America. And states right now, they're slowly opening back up and trying to figure out what it looks like. And there are people who are screaming for everything to open, and then there are people who are shouting for things to stay shut down. There are people upset about having to wear a mask out in public, and then there are people who think people who don't wear a mask are selfish and inconsiderate. There are people who say people die of the flu and we don't shut down for that, and then there are people who don't want to go out because they or a loved one are more vulnerable, and a disease like COVID-19 would be more devastating for them. So there's this pandemic happening, and we've all had our lives interrupted and halted, and we've been isolated and cooped up. We're trying to figure out what today looks like, let alone next week, next month, and so on, right? Here's what else is happening in this perfect storm of events, right? This is the moment we're living in. And if you're listening to this a couple of years from now, you know how everything went down and you know what took place. But here in this moment, just recently, another black man, George Floyd, was murdered in broad daylight by a police officer who knelt on this handcuffed man's neck for almost 9 minutes. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, slowly asphyxiating him as he said over and over again, "I can't breathe." And there were 3 other officers present standing watch and bystanders begging for the cop to get off his neck. And the videos were uploaded for the world to see this man die. And this incident was just the latest to happen after other incidents like Breonna Taylor being shot 8 times while she was asleep as police raided her home looking for a suspect they already had in custody. This follows the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery, which the world got to see on video as an armed white father and son followed him seeking to make a citizen's arrest because they thought he was a criminal. But no arrests or charges in that case were made until Arbery's death video went public. So we're in this moment right now where tensions and frustration and hurt and pain have just boiled over from years and years of injustice, and people are protesting and some are rioting, and the brokenness and the dysfunction of humanity because of the results of sin are on display, and we're living in this moment of anger and pain and outrage and heartbreak and anxiety and fear. It's a moment of division and despair. It's a moment where, if I'm open with you, without Jesus, I wouldn't know what to do or how to move forward. So this is where we are right now. But again, this value that we learn from Jesus, being known for what we're for and not what we're against, is a value that teaches us how to have unity and healing and hope, not just in this moment that we find ourselves in society right now, but in every situation we find ourselves in our marriages, our relationships, our workplaces, in everything. Here's this prayer that Jesus prayed for everyone and anyone who would follow him, making him the leader of their life, believing in him and being baptized into him. Here's the prayer that he prayed for us, John 17. I'm praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one, as you are in me, Father, and I am in you. And may they be in us, so that the world will believe you sent me. Here's another thing Jesus said in line with this prayer, John chapter 13. So now I'm giving you a new commandment: love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. See, Jesus, the Son of God, God himself, the one who made us and knows us better than we know ourselves. He prayed for you and he prayed for me in this moment, here and now, and in every moment in our lives. He prayed that you, me, we would be united in him. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one. As you are in me, Father, and I am in you, and may they be in us so that the world will believe you sent me. He said, when we're united, the world will look at us and know that Jesus was God's Son, sent for the forgiveness and redemption of us all. How will the world know that, right? Because they'll see people from every state and country and political view and race and nationality and age and lifestyle living as one, united and not divided. See, it would take an act of God for all of us to be united. Like only God could do something like that. And that's the evidence that he exists when people see we're united. And this is the picture of heaven, right? Revelation chapter 7. After this, I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language, standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes and held palm branches in their hands, and they were shouting with a great roar, "Salvation comes from our God who sits on the throne and from the Lamb." See, heaven is this picture where all people stand together in unity and with one voice proclaim the greatness of God. This picture, this imagery, this reality is one of the things Jesus had in mind when he taught us to pray. Matthew chapter 6, may your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He said, hey, when you pray that this world will look more like heaven because God's kingdom and his will reign supreme here. Pray that this world looks more like heaven. So how does heaven look? Heaven looks like unity. How will this world look more like heaven when we live the life of heaven here and now by living, being known not for what we're against, but for what we're for? And here's why being known for what we're for and not what we're against is so key in coming to unity. See, when I speak about what I'm for, it's a positive thing. And it invites you to come along. When I speak about what I'm against, it's a negative thing. And it invites you to become defensive. Right? See, being for is building. Being against is tearing down. And yes, listen, sometimes you have to tear down to build. And yes, if you're for some things, it means you're against some things because you can't be for everything. But in our approach, if we're going to reach unity in our marriage, in our friendships, in our church, in our job, in our society, we have to begin by seeking common ground, understanding what it is we're for. See, we live in a society where we've lost the understanding of how to disagree and still love. See, our construct is one where if you don't agree with me, if you think differently than me, if you vote differently than me, if you believe differently than me, then I don't want much to do with you, so I'm done with you. And we gravitate to those who are like us and easily become more entrenched in our own thoughts and beliefs and mindsets and views and attitudes, creating these silos that just feed what we already believe. Listen, it's vital for us to focus on what we're for. Here's why. Because if we can keep coming back to what we agree on, then this thing that we have contention on, we can talk about it. And not as enemies, but as allies. Because we're for this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. We're for all these things. And what we find is that we're actually for more than what we're against. So we're not opposing one another. We're standing with one another, seeking to be united together. See, the problem when we're known for what we're against, when we live from a posture of being against, is we can be so similar. We can be so for so many things, but we never see this unity and these similarities that we have. We never see them because we're focused on this one thing that we don't see eye to eye on, right? And we allow this one thing or those few things that we're against, that we don't see eye to eye on, become the determining factors of division between us. So what if we approach life not from a standpoint with do I agree with what you're saying or do I disagree with it? Because that's how most responses are started and stated, aren't they? I mean, whether it's in person or on someone's feed, someone says something and automatically, the response is, well, I disagree with, or I agree with. And what if we just approach one another, not filtering people and thoughts and ideas through this grid of, do I agree or do I disagree? Well, I disagree, so I'm writing you off and I'm going to go to war with you. I agree, so I have your back until I disagree with something that you say, and then I'll write you off. But what if instead of responding with I agree or disagree, what if we responded with this approach of, I just want to listen and understand and learn and see what needs to change in me or how I can grow from this. I mean, what if we let the words of James, Jesus' brother, be our response and approach to one another? Here's what James said. Again, Jesus' brother, this guy who spent time with Jesus. He said, understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger doesn't produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. You know, I never saw this before in reading this passage, and I've read it hundreds of times, but James says to get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives right after instructing us to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. So watch. When I'm slow to listen, the opposite. When I'm quick to speak and I'm quick to become angry, according to James, that's filthy and evil. Why? Because it leads to division, and Jesus' desire for me and for you is that we would be united in him, not divided. And you've seen the division, haven't you? I mean, the best place to see our dysfunction and division is all over social media. And listen, social media isn't the problem. We are, because we are the ones posting our division. I mean, just in the past few weeks, we've posted our division over masks or no masks. Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Cops Lives Matter, protests, riots, indifference, silence, Democrat, Republican, COVID's real, COVID's a conspiracy. It's like the only thing we aren't divided on is the truth that Carol Baskin killed her husband. And if you're listening to this 2 years from now, that's a Tiger King reference, but you already know Tiger King. You watched it. It was a documentary that came out in 2020. Anyway, this is a historical year. But when we become the kind of people who are known for what we're for and not what we're against, then we adopt this approach where we wonder, what do we have in common, right? What do we resonate with? What's the solid ground we can both stand on? I mean, wherever you're having disagreements in life, if it's in a relationship, if it's at home, at school, at work, in church, in society, wherever there's a disconnect, we stop. What if we did this? We stopped. We became quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, and found the common ground, moving forward with what we were for. So look, stop the disagreements in your marriage. Find out what you're for and move forward from that place. Stop the bitterness in your friendship. Figure out what you're for and move forward from that unity. Stop the divisiveness in politics, race, economics, religion, lifestyles. Find what you're for and allow that to be the uniting factor to bring together two seemingly opposing sides. Because often what we're fighting for is similar, but we're fighting over our differences in that. So what are you for? What are you for? Here's what I'm for. I want to see if you can get with me on this. I'm for love. I'm for grace. I'm for hope. I'm for joy. I'm for equality. I'm for justice. I'm for peace. I'm for forgiveness. I'm for kindness. I'm for understanding. I'm for goodness. I'm for gentleness. I'm for reconciliation. I'm for redemption. I'm for life. I'm for freedom. And I'm for the power of the resurrection to reign supreme in my life, in your life, so that together we can stand united as a picture of heaven here on earth. See, if the Ukes who wore blue and ate their bread with the butter side up, and the Zooks who wore orange and ate their bread with the butter side down, just took a moment to look past their differences, to see just how similar they were, perhaps an arms race never would have happened, and the wall that divided them could have come crashing down as they worked together to live in unity and harmony with one another. If only. If only they chose to be known for what they were for and not what they were against. What will you be known for?
we are a church where we are known for what we are for, not what we are against. I think it's so great to have as a value for not just a church, but as us as individuals. And really, during this series, when we talk about these values and that we believe them as a church, what we mean is that we believe them as people. The church isn't a building. This building doesn't believe these things, but us as individuals believe these to be true. And so we live these out and we express them. We're known for what we're for on social media. We're known for what we're for in conversations that we have with people. We're known for what we're for all throughout. When people interact with us, they would say, man, I know what that person is all about. But they wouldn't be able to say, I really know what they hate. And I'm so thankful and I'm so honored that we're a church where we are known for what we're for and not against. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. If you haven't had a chance to return your tithe or bring your offering, make sure to stop by our website, wearetherising.com/give. Set up an online account there or text 45777, the amount you'd like to give, keyword The Rising. Also, now is the time to join a group. Don't wait for this all to be over because who knows when that's going to be, but now is the time to continue building this community. It's been really incredible to hear stories of people that have joined groups for the first time, who have built relationships, who've gotten to know people that they've served alongside when we had a physical place, but now they know each other better because of a Zoom call and a Zoom hangout that they were involved in and the Zoom groups that they participated in. So make today the day you sign up for a Zoom group. Can't wait to see all the stories that happen as a result. We're also continuing to partner with the Serve app. Keep an eye out there for any new projects that we may have coming up. We're going to put them on there. We're going to be putting all the things that we're doing on Facebook, Instagram, so make sure if you're not already, follow us along there. Continue to send in your prayer requests, continue to send in things that you're excited about that you want to praise alongside with us via DM on Instagram or Facebook. Just let us know about all the great things that are happening, but also let us know how we can help, how we can be praying for you. We are so excited for what God is doing in this time. Even though there's a worldwide pandemic, God is still moving, He is still alive, and the tomb is still empty, and the church cannot be stopped. Such an honor to be with you guys this morning, and we will see you guys right here next Sunday. Take care.